My microphone was closed. So I would like to formally introduce Burak Malkoc for the workshop that is going to be presenting to us. As I said before, on continuous improvement. So Dr. Burak Malkoc, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Archibald. Thank you, Meltem. Continuous improvement is an amazing methodology that changed many lives. I am here today to share with you my experience with continuous improvement. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay. Kaizen. The word Kaizen in Japanese language means small incremental improvements. It's the foundational philosophy of many Japanese companies who actually came from very small operations, and they actually became the masters of many industries. So anything in your life from now on, I suggest you incorporate Kaizen into your life. Because I'm going to be sharing the model, the formatted document, either PDF or PowerPoint. I have all the agenda here, but I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to get you directly to an example. What is continuous improvement? It's an ongoing, systematic, methodical efforts to eliminate waste. In the next slide, we're going to be looking at what are some of the waste. But here, what you need to remember when you take yourself a note, Tim Woods is an acronym that describes the type of waste. Japanese companies have discovered that in any process, there is a waste that needs to be removed. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, but as early as possible. That's why on the left-hand side, you can see in 1970, a model of the Camry 2026 here, the car in red. Actually, as you understand, a vehicle, a sedan, a car has three or four components. Say, for example, it has the engine, okay? It has the transmission and the wheels, and it has a cabin. But as you understand, from 1970s to 2026, the vehicle has changed completely. And because of Kaizen, because of continuous improvement. And I'll give you the critical information here. In 1970s, Toyota was a small company, and their global market share was around 2%. And in 2025, and of course 2026, they're well beyond 12%. They manufacture 6 million cars and vehicles in a year, and they're the number one in the world because they apply continuous improvement to all of their operations. One of the things that's very critical to continuous improvement at the very bottom, that's the human side of operations. We all, to be able to apply continuous improvement, we have to respect others, we have to trust, and we have to find ways of interacting with others in a constructive way. Otherwise, nothing is going to improve uh, automatically. I'll give you like 5 seconds, 6 seconds to let you read. I'm not going to read the slide because this is where I'm trying to give you the understanding that all processes have a weight, either small or the large size of waste. Please read this starting rework, lack of knowledge, process failure. I'll give you 5 seconds, and I'm going to ask you what what is in your mind at this time in terms of continuous improvement, Kaizen, which is the philosophy, and in terms of waste. And please drop it in the chat so that we can take a look at that. So, okay, I see manufacturing. Yes, it applies to manufacturing. It applies to all services. It applies to all administrative processes. Anybody else? What's in your mind? Just drop. If you don't have anything in your mind, say, I didn't hear about continuous improvement. I didn't hear about Kaizen. That's okay. What is important that we're trying to actually going through the slide deck is what new ideas is going to come to your mind. Maybe last round, 1 or 2 seconds. Okay, I don't see any chat. I'm going to continue. Okay, I want to here very quickly explain how I learned about continuous improvement. Everything starts in your school, depending on if you're studying anything technical or social or in between. Please go back and see what did you learn about math, science, social science, because all about this continuous improvement is a combination of the technical aspects of work as well as the human side. Then I worked in residential construction. In residential construction, you have a model, maybe two models, but the rest of the site, like we were building 2,000 homes and there are only two models. What do we do? If we can build the two models in the best way, then we can replicate it. It's a great example of where you can apply continuous improvement. Here in the, I put it the Lafarge Ekman because that's the company I work for. And then I was able to apply all the continuous improvement because, like, for example, every truck leaving the plant has like 10 cubic meter, 12 cubic meter of concrete, and it needs to be consistent. It's a great application of continuous improvement. Then, because of the work that we've done at this company here in Turkey in 1994, in 1996, the company, Lafarge, is the world's largest cement and construction materials company in 1996. That means by the July 1st of 2026, it's going to be 30 years. The company transferred me to United States of America and said, Burak, go ahead and apply everything you actually practice in Turkey. Can you believe that? The global company has invited to US from Turkey saying that please go and teach our American companies what you practice in Turkey. That's an amazing event. You can do the same. Okay, so here we're getting in quickly into the tools. Now, my goal is to inspire you different ways, and then you will start learning tomorrow morning when you get up in the morning. First time, what's going to be in your mind? It's going to be continuous improvement. It's going to be Kaizen. It's going to be Toyota, and it's going to be Dimeyik. Dimeyik. That's how it's pronounced because every time you solve a problem, that's going to improve the overall performance of that process. That is going to be safer. Oh, let's define what we're trying to improve. Then let's measure it. If you don't have a measurement, you're not going to know exactly what's being improved. Then you will analyze it. Okay. Then I will explain, there's a principle that calls for transparency principle. You will always practice that. When you have higher level transparency, then you're getting into analyze phase. Then you will agree with your colleagues to improve because there's so many ideas that you need to engage your friends to actually what is the most important aspect that you want to improve. Then control, they're thinking that, okay, we've done the definition, we measured it, analyzed and improved it. But control is because human nature, what is human nature? That we repeat what we know. If we're going to implement a new ideas, improvement idea, then in this case, we want to make sure that we practice enough. And in the new transition, new phase, the future phase, we continue with the new methods, new approaches, and we don't go back to what we used to. That's the most important part. If you miss any part of the DMAIC model, I assure you, your improvement project is not going to be successful. So I let you watch because I was talking with Mantem and them the other day. This is a phenomenal concept. Anytime you have an idea for improvement, you need to ask you the question, who is our client and what do they want? At the end of the day, everything in continuous improvement is called customer centric. If you're not customer centric, then in this case, you're not going to satisfy anything. But guess what? This is the hardest thing to do. Please watch. Look, I'm going to read the first one here. How the customer explained it. Customer explained it's called tree swing with 3 levels. But then as you go through, actually, customer wanted was a rope and an old tire so that they can swing. But in between, this happens all the time. Unfortunately, again, we cannot explain as human beings what we want specifically, clearly at one time. You have to rewrite, rewrite 5 times your definition of the problem and how do you measure that. Otherwise, you're not going to catch the right problem to solve. Like, for example, in this example, I think it says that the client is looking for a vehicle and is looking for cup holders. Like, what is important for the client that yes, he's going to drive a vehicle, but at the same time, what is important that there is a cup holder in the vehicle so that this kind of American culture, like the Americans like to drink fluids while they're driving, also eat as well. So what is important from the client perspective? So you need to catch what is important for the client and infuse those ideas into your process. Otherwise, you might improve the process, but it doesn't really answer. It doesn't really satisfy the customer requirements. That's a very important point. Here, Kano model. I personally designed and delivered a 2.5 days long Kano model program on taxation. What the heck? Is it manufacturing? No. Is it services? No. It's more administrative work. But in the US, when I organized this tax conference using the Kano model, everybody was so excited. They told me, oh, can we do that in Washington, D.C.? Or can we do that in Florida? Every state, every county was asking me, how can I organize this type of conference? Because we're getting into nitty gritty details of what does the customer really want. And I'm not going to go too much into detail because it would take us like half an hour to discuss the whole thing. But what is important that it's really so fundamental to understand customer needs in such a way that we can integrate those elements into our process. Okay, value design tool. Like this one, the gentleman who actually designed this tool I know him in person, and he's an academic researcher for this work. He received already 30,000 academic research citation. Once you learn this again, like customer jobs, what is exactly customers doing and what type of pains they have in performing that, you need to, in your personal life, whatever you do, like your friends, your, one second, one second, I need to plug my phone, computer into the power. Now the next tool is KPI. So I would like to hear from you. Please drop in the what is meant by KPIs? KPIs. What is that acronym? Let me see.
Key performance indicators.
Perfect. Excellent. So what does that mean? It's very critical that we measure something and then we create a dashboard so we monitor the key indicators weekly, monthly. I'm telling you, if you don't have your personal KPI dashboard right now, you'd better tomorrow morning research it, analyze it, and see what are you going to measure. Because remember that psychosocially, anything that you measure in your life is going to improve. You don't have to do almost nothing because your brain is going to capture new ideas that relates to what you're measuring, and then automatically it's going to focus on those and improve your life. Now, transparency principle, that's the most important thing because anything not transparent, then we don't have enough ownership. These charts, SciPy chart, process maps, they're easy tools. Again, on the ease of tools. Tools are very easy. I heard many times people, oh, I was expecting something more complex. Why? Why do you want to make your life more complex, even though when you have simple tools that can solve the problem? Here, what we're trying to understand, in the middle is a process. But for the process to work, you know this, there must be two things, input and output, right? Raise please your hand if you are familiar with input, process, output. Great. Marty, I see you. Who else? Maybe okay, perfect. Everything operates input, process, output. But then we look at further out. That means that we look at the suppliers, we look at the customers. Then that gives a little bit more wider view of what is processed, what are the inputs, and then we start creating requirements. Like for example, this is another way of looking at this process. Again, inputs, process, outputs. And in this example, they're taken of a pizza order. When you, for example, if you don't do this type of work, in this case, we know that that process is going to have some errors. It's going to have some waste in it, and it's not going to be never, ever consistent. And if it's not consistent, that means the performance is going to fluctuate. Sometimes you take 5 minutes to take an order. Sometimes it takes you about 1 minute to take an order, but it's incomplete and it has errors in it. That's the way Japanese companies actually created error-free products. When, for example, Toyota, you buy a Camry or another Toyota car, do you know that you can drive it 200,000 miles, almost like 300,000 kilometers, and it's not going to have a significant failure. But if you buy American car, if you buy a French or German cars, they might be a little more elaborate, a little bit fancy, but they're not going to as reliable as Japanese cars. Why? Because they always find where the process is going to fail, where the product is going to fail, they remove it because of the mentality, philosophy. It's not that American car manufacturing people or French or German, their engineers, they're not as brilliant. Even they're more brilliant, say, German engineers, but Japanese companies follow Kaizen principle. That's the difference. All I'm asking you, you might be from Turkey, you might be from another country, or, or vice versa. But at the same, if you adopt the attitude, the philosophy of continuous improvement, your life is going to be different. So here I have other examples, how to build this, etc. Because I'm sharing this here, for example, I have a template. Uh, you can fill it out. By the way, I meant to tell you earlier, here we only have like 30 minutes today to share with you the essential of continuous improvement and the toolbox. But because we're going to be sharing the whole deck with you, if you have, once you review it, once you do a little bit of research, then you can please ask me questions or we can arrange because I'm going to be in Istanbul the next 4 weeks. So you can either ask me a question or we can meet in person, face to face, and then I can share answer your specific questions. Here's another practice SciPuck. Okay, process maps. This is the transparency principle. This is so important that if you map out your process, then you'll discover that there are steps that you're missing. There are steps that where it takes you longer. There are steps that you actually, the work that you do is not creating value add. So there's so many steps in that process that you can learn, discover, because you're increasing the transparency of the process. So I have all the tools here, principles, cause and effect. Now, what you need to do though, once you create the transparency, and you find out, for example, what factors causes downstream issues, causes errors, causes waste. So you have to, here, there's a little bit critical thinking, but I think that this is the best time to actually do a creative thinking with your friends, colleagues, so that you don't like just infuse or impose your ideas, but you actually collaborate with other people. That's the most important part. Then, then we get to the fishbone diagram because again, it's a toolbox-driven methodology, and then you put the outside the effect, for example, whatever you want to remove, and then you add, is it because of the people, because of the process, because of the equipment, and then you call out the details. That's how you discover, you go deeper in your process, and therefore you find a factor that's going to impact the results. That's why I call it the cause and effect. So here's the fishbone diagram example. I think we're getting towards the end, and there is more. We can a lot of details, but what is important that you need to extract the one that has most impact on the outcome. Okay. So I'm going to be asking questions so that you can think about it. Fishbone diagram, the Pareto chart. Who knows about the Pareto chart? He was like an Italian economist. Like how many people heard about the Pareto chart? Okay, excellent. Marty, Archibald, Melton, that's fantastic. So as we understand, they're like always 20% of the one factor has an impact 80% of the outcome. Like for example, if you are in the commerce, like if you're in the sales, 20% of the clients actually bring 80% of the revenue. So you have to focus on the smaller portion. You don't have to be analyzing everything in your process. You have to focus on the smaller part of the process where 20%, but it has a greater impact. That's how you leverage your process very quickly and very easily. And it's called the vital few factors. So again, I have more content how to do that. And then there's more like you can actually use data because everything is data driven. It's not by observations and guesswork, but actually look at the here. This is the Pareto chart where you can see the vital few. What happens when, because of the transparency principle and because you can chart it, it's very agree with other people to actually conduct and understand what is the priority. Otherwise, human beings are emotional creatures and they have their own perspective and they're subjective about that. And it's very hard to find somebody who can agree with you unless you have the data. And there, if you want to write it down, I'll share with you Edward Demings, if you heard the name, Edward Demings, he said once, in God we trust, everybody else brings the data. Okay, so you look it up. Look this up. This Edward Demings. By the way, who's Edward Demings? Is an American industrialist who actually taught Japanese manufacturing
Japanese
companies
people.
in 1956 how to actually control processes. Do you see that? That's the destiny of history. And then that's Edward Demings who said, who we can quote the well-known quote that in God we trust. In God we trust is the American dollars. Okay, American dollars. In God we trust. He takes that, and then in God we trust. Everybody else brings the data. When you have the data, when you have the chart, it's very easy to convince others. So now that we're getting closer to improvement and make sure that we have control procedures to ensure that everybody is following the procedure, we eliminate the waste, and then we use Socratic questioning. Please, again, write this down. I'm sure Marty knows about Socratic questioning for sure. I'm not asking Marty, thank you. Then you use these kind of questioning to have people actually interact with you and then see they understood or not. And then you implement projects. And then there's one more step I don't want to talk about today. So we're getting to the end. Then this it's going to change your life, I'm sure. And then we delivered significant business results. I can tell you so many examples. Like, for example, the company I was leading in Turkey 30 years ago, in 2 years, we doubled the company's profitability. Like from the Paris headquarters, there were two vice presidents, one director. They came in and they want to hear, bro, what do you guys do? They never seen it. Why? Because of we increased the transparency, we measured, we used the chart, the fishbone diagram, etc. We quickly make people agree. Most of the companies they figure out what they need to do, but it's the hardest thing to do is to get people agree on something. But either you're hearing more the first time or you're a practitioner already like Marty, then whatever you learn here is going to help you improve. And then at the end, I gave you a sample, like for example, right now, Toyota, because they're shifting more, they're producing more electrical vehicle as well as the hybrid vehicles. So they're looking at how actually they can change their setups. I looked up to this, they took this, the time it takes to change the factory settings, 20 hours, and they reduced it to like less than an hour. This is the end. I would like to then ask you, let me say this. Learning continuous improvement, it came from my schooling. It came from my industrial experience. It came from a gentleman that I work with. I learned from him and I applied it and I continue to study it. And over time, I became an expert. So this is what you can do on your own. All you have to do, find a partner so that we can be creatively thinking about improving ideas. With this, I would like to ask you, I'm going to stop sharing. I would like to ask you what question, what do you have in your mind related to continuous improvement? Please drop in the chat. Okay, so I see Vladimir. Remember to take a week to get a proper theoretical course on Lean Six Sigma. It's amazing, but I completed my first unit. Oh, that's fantastic. Statistics and data science. That's it. Statistics and data science. This is the foundation of continuous improvement. What else? Anybody else would like to share with me that could be related to something that happened in the past, or, oh yeah, that's an interesting area. Maybe I'm inspired to do more research on. Huh. Uh, Murat, customer relations. Customer is the most important, but always senior executive talent. Burak, where do we start? There are two places in an organization that anyone can. Is this the first one? You know this safety, because we need to be safe in everything that we do, either the cybersecurity or physical safety. Okay, so if we have a store, make sure that the store is protected. Or do you see that safety first? Second, customers. Anything related to revenue. How do we get? That's why I'm interested in continuous improvement, because right now in the Toastmaster, we need to get more what? More members. But who? That's why in the US, I'm becoming an area director, and I'm not sharing with this immediately, not to attract the negative ideas, but I'm going to be applying continuous improvement Kaizen uh, to everything related to revenue side. That means how do we get new members, and how do we not lose the new members? And the value added of the process, we can define in different ways. The foundation of the process is that it creates value. If it doesn't create value, then in this case, there's no point of doing anything. Okay, well, who else? Say anything more about value? Okay, let me see Vlad here. We're going to go to look at, I'm a green belt. Oh, wonderful. Vlad saying that is a great, it is pleasure to listen as a reminder of the training. Look about for person, like Vlad, that's a great idea. We need to like relearn what we learned, because what happens, you already learned, but you already experienced that. Then all this experiential learning, when you apply to relearning, then you're going to say, oh, 1 second, I missed that point in my formal training. I recommend highly, if you have done training before and you have applied it, go and take a similar training again, and you will see that you will learn more detail. It's like watching a movie. How many times is it going to take you to watch it's the same movie to truly understand all the details? With this, I turn over to Archibald. Are you here? I cannot see you.